surprise me if we end the year up more like 140,000, 180,000, something like that. I mean, we could just have an exponential rise. And by the way, these bubbles, even though the power law is not exponential, these bubbles are exponential in nature. As Giovanni's pointed out, the exponential on the way up and on the way down. So you have these 1% a day kind of moves up and 1% a day down. So that's generally the way I feel. I'm not playing this thing day to day. I don't trade the market. I'm just long Bitcoin. Sometimes I buy a little bit more Bitcoin. I think it's a good time to buy Bitcoin right here. You're below the trend line. You've got a possible catalyst on the way up. So if you buy and Trump gets elected, which the poly market odds are now saying 50-50, then you've got a really good position. It's great to be really in the money in Bitcoin, because then you sort of care less. It drops 20%, you don't care. If you just bought, it drops 20%, you're hurting, So it's really good to get your foot in the door and to have a position that's like profitable and has a big margin of profit in it. So I think this election could be that. There are not going to be any speakers. There are not going to be any sponsors. Everything is catered. So you'll get there. You'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you'll just be able to hang out and meet actual Bitcoiners and people you talk to on Spaces, and a lot of us will be there. So, and we can kind of share our thoughts on. There's a lot of new topics that are coming up. For example, MSTR versus IBIT versus the leverage one. I forget the MSTX, so some trading strategies. Andrew Parrish from AP Abacus is going to be talking about some trading software that he's implementing with Gemini. So that should be really interesting. There's going to be some people on lending, which could be interesting. Unchained Capital will be there, their lending product. There's going to be Puncher is going to be there talking about El Salvador and the practicalities of like setting up a residence, whether it's your primary residence or just a secondary residence in El Salvador, Bitcoin. But probably next time around, if we do this thing again, you'll be able to kind of pay with Bitcoin. You can pay for your ticket in Bitcoin right now. So we got all that hooked up. Of course, Giovanni's going to be there. And that's going to be exciting. I'm going to be having at least one session on the power law. I'm trying very hard to put together a booklet on the power law, separate booklet that we're going to be giving out free, which is going to be the Power Law Reference Manual, which I'm really trying to put together with Cena. Cena 21st, excellent Twitter handle. You should absolutely follow it. It's just very, very good analytics. And so, we're putting together this power law because Cena's got this great content. So I really want to just organize this content better and put it in this little booklet. So it's great stuff. And I think it'd be a great thing to kind of take back and read on the plane with you, and look at all the charts and everything. So yeah. So what else do we have? The only thing that people keep jumping in on JD Vance is the couch incident, which I think it's perfectly normal that people make love to their couches, right? It's normal. Yeah, and he's a Bitcoiner, right? So JD Vance owns Bitcoin and has owned it for 4 years, right? And meanwhile, what's his name? Waltz not only does not own any Bitcoin, he doesn't own any stocks. He claims to own his own home, but the guy doesn't seem to have any assets, so I don't know. Like a guy like that possibly running the country is a little it's a little strange. Thoughts on BSV capability? Are you kidding me? I have no thoughts on BSV capability. What is, this is some BSV account. And advantage and the lawsuit over is not one way. It's the correlation. So Lynn Alden, there's a lot of people, really interesting non-mathematical people. Safety is one of them. And Cena had this great post today, which I retweeted. And it said, this post is just absolutely amazing. Let me just find this post. So Safety said, this is literally what he said. And he said this in the Bitcoin Standard, and then he puts it out in his profile too. He goes, one standard deviation band is around 40,000 wide. The odds of the price being there randomly on a given day is 40,000 over 100 million, or 0.04%. Now, that's just insane. Like, the fact that he would say that is insane. So where's he get this 100 million number? Where's he get this 0.40,000 over? Like, zero understanding of what even the word standard deviation means. And then he goes, the odds of it being in that band randomly for 800 days in a row are that number. Now, do I think Coinbase, for like their base product and their, what's it called? CBBTC is 100% backed? I wouldn't trust that thing. I gotta tell you, I would not. Probably okay, but the fact that they don't have any proof of reserves or anything is just disturbing. So I wouldn't use Coinbase. There's better things to use, and of course, you should always self-custody, right? So, BlackRock's relation with Coinbase is not the same as your relation with Coinbase. They have dedicated addresses that are there. They're running their own nodes that they can verify that the Bitcoin in those dedicated addresses is actual Bitcoin. They're not just relying on some accountant once a quarter to verify the reserves. They're verifying those reserves in real time. So you don't have those dedicated addresses in Coinbase. You can't see where your Bitcoin is when you put it in. So you're in the system, right? So Danielle Race, and it costs $1 million to move to El Salvador. Yeah, I remember that they did have that to move there full time. It's $1 million. To be a resident, I'm not sure if it's a resident or citizenship. There's services out there. I know people have changed their residence, their nationality from the U.S., and I know it's much more difficult right now. So, money's not everything. So, but I do think that, and let's just keep our fingers crossed, because we may be in a positive tax and positive crypto regime, hopefully. And yeah, next Fed rate cut, November 6th. Right, that's the other thing. Let's not forget, we've got another rate cut coming. The ADT numbers were a little bit bigger today, so maybe 25 basis points. But it may be 50. It probably will be 50. And there's a fleeing of risk assets in general, and Bitcoin just gets trampled as we have this recession. I don't think that that's really going to happen right now. I think more likely they'll just cut rates to 2%, and we'll have a little mini boom. It's kind of my view. Hey, Brent. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. I think in general, interest rates are going lower, and that's all you need to know, right? So, we are going to be at 3%. We're going to have a 3% handle on our interest rates in 6 months. And there's $6 trillion in money market funds right now. we are in this beginning of this really big liquidity cycle. And so I think the liquidity is, Michael Howell from Cross Border had made this very clear. Liquidity is what drives short-term moves. We're going to, if you're coming into the election and the polls have changed a little bit, and I don't think people are going to want to be short into this election. I think they're going to start defensively allocating some money to the probability that Trump will win, because I think Trump wins, Bitcoin goes up a lot. And while I don't think it's a stochastic process, you can't, it's not a deterministic process. There's some chance that Kamala wins, a very good chance, right? But in the 50% chance that Trump wins, in that branch of the probability tree, Bitcoin's going well over 100,000 very quickly. So, do you want to not be involved for that? No, I think you kind of have to. Larry Funk says 83% chance. Okay. Doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is if you're playing it. Well, it does matter what the price of Bitcoin is, because I think the price of Bitcoin is your KPI. That's how well Bitcoin's doing. So I think that's how we